Hi, welcome to the Coffee Chat Show here on Buzzin Pattaya, the show where we talk about things that are happening right here, right now, as well as general news, tips, information and advice. Now, I am all the way over, I say all the way, but I'm over in Jomtien, and joining me on today's show is Michael. How you doing, my man?
Yeah, real good, thanks.
Great to have you here. Thank you so much for inviting me over. Now,
Perfect.
If you're not sure where we are, I'm in probably the most sought after pie shop in the whole of the Pattaya, maybe even Thailand area, in Tinnies. Now, if you're not sure what Tinnies is all about, in part two we're going to drill right down into that. But before we get stuck into that, Michael, my friend, tell me, where are you from?
Oh, well, from Australia, grew up in Sydney. Spent the last 20 years in Tasmania, in Launceston.
Wow.
But pretty well lived all over Australia.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of like Tasmania, how does Tasmania compare to Thailand? I've never been to Tasmania.
Oh, well, totally different.
Is it?
It's very mild temperatures, clean, fresh air.
Very different then.
Yeah, not much hassle at all.
Yeah. And I mean, back in the day, I mean, what were you doing when you were back there?
Okay, well, I had a air conditioning business with my brother, or heating and air conditioning, primarily heating in Tasmania, and that. But yeah, I moved over there to do that with him after getting out of the Air Force.
Right.
We did that, and then changes in life as we all go through.
Exactly.
I decided to move on.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm guessing, you know, obviously as a heating engineer, probably not much call for it out here in Thailand, really, is it?
Oh, well, it's reverse cycle air conditioning, so same thing.
Same thing.
You know, whether it's heating or cooling.
Now, you mentioned earlier on then that you've been in the Air Force, but talking to you before we did this, check this out. Now, you came here how many years ago?
Oh, 1978 was the first time I came.
1978.
As an 18-year-old in the Air Force. She was a pretty wild place back then.
I can imagine. I mean, 1978. I mean, that's...
Before mobile phones, the people were happy, you know, which meant you had a great time here. You know, people were just content with their lives, and as long as you willing to fit in, it was a lot of fun. So I suppose back in the day then, the girls weren't doing this all day long then? No, definitely not.
No, fantastic. I mean, going back to that first ever visit, I mean, when you came here, I mean, obviously 18 years old, 1978, I mean, what was it like? I mean...
Look, well, I wasn't comparing it to now because I didn't know what now was going to be like.
Yeah.
But, the things that I suppose I remember was the innocence of the place. It was just the tropics. Well, I digress a little. As a kid, my dad was in the Air Force, and we lived in Malaysia for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And so I always loved the tropics and the lifestyle that came with it.
Yeah.
Coming to Thailand was just, well, I went to Butterworth in Malaysia, and friends said, let's go to Thailand for the weekend, and off we came. As a naive 18-year-old, it was an eye-opening experience.
Well, you lived to tell the tale. You're okay.
Yeah.
Now, we were just talking a minute ago. Now, you didn't come straight to Pattaya, did you? You went to Bangkok first.
Yeah. Most of my time over here I spent in Bangkok. I don't know, I suppose I saw Pattaya as being a bit sleazy for me, you know, but I'd venture down here now and then, but for the many trips that I did, most of the time I'd spend in Bangkok, and if I wanted to go to the beach, I'd go to Chatham.
Right.
I just liked it because it was a country feel.
Wow. I mean, back in the day, Bangkok, I mean, I've no idea what Bangkok was like, because obviously I didn't come into it much later on. But I mean, in terms of Bangkok, I mean, what was it like? Because I'm guessing no BTS, no Nana Plaza, no Soy Cowboy.
No. Well, I didn't actually come to Bangkok until later years, probably in the 90s. And then it was still a big city to me, you know, the thing. But there was always still the hustle and bustle of traffic. Might be on the scale it is now, but they didn't have the big the freeways and overheads then, you know, it was just town. So it was just a great place to get away from.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously I know that the financial status here with the exchange rates up and down. I mean, can you remember what your rate was back then? I mean, compared to how it is today?
I think it was fairly similar, if I remember correctly. It's just that your money went a lot further. You know, the highest I ever got was would have been around, I'd guess 2009.
Okay.
You know, where we got about, I think we tipped it out at about 33.7 baht to the dollar. So things were really cheap then, and that's why we came here.
Yeah, I mean, how much was a beer?
Oh, I can't remember.
You drank too many, didn't you?
Always drank too many to remember, yeah.
I mean, was it really like cheap though? Was it?
Well, it was cheap to me because the exchange rate was so good. But again, in fairness, I didn't spend a lot of time in the club life. I was always just doing my own thing, and but honestly, I really don't remember the pricing.
Yeah.
Back then, you just spent what you had, and when you ran out, you went home.
Well, not a lot's changed really, has it? It's all the same now. People come over here, they spend it like it's confetti. Our 2-week millionaires, I love you all. You know, the 2-week millionaires come here, bang, 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 and then they're gone.
Yes.
And we're left picking up the pieces, then they're thinking, damn, they spent some money.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, when you left school, you mentioned earlier before we did the interview that you were 15, was it 15 when you started making pies?
Yeah, I started an apprenticeship at 15 years old, and that didn't last long because I was doing 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and as a young guy, it was just too hard on me, but fortunately I don't forget much, and what I learned in those days, I remembered didn't cook pies again until I hit my late 40s.
Wow.
After going through the divorce and that, I got out of my air conditioning business, which I'd had for 13 and a half years, and decided I'd make pies. And
wow.
I opened up in Launceston. Again, it was called Tinnies Pies in Launceston. We had that for about 9 years. I'd met my current wife at the time, and she came over to Australia and worked with me from the start.
Yeah.
And we built the business up there. When we decided to move from Tasmania, going to head up the Gold Coast or up to Cairns or something where the weather was warmer, we did a bit of travelling, ended up over here, and I just said, well, why not? You know, you can't, there was nothing here, so like what we do. But it's not only pies here, we're a full restaurant.
Yeah.
Have a big variety of food, but
well, we'll talk about that in more detail in part 2, but what I wanted to ask you is, I mean, when you were 15 years old and you're in the bakery with your making the pies, I mean, did you have any idea that years later you'd be making pies in Thailand?
No, it was just a stepping stone when I did that, you know, get out of home, and because I moved away from where I grew up, and about the only thing I can really remember about that is rolling bread rolls at 2 o'clock in the morning to the music Go to Rio, because that was the hit song at the time, and it's embedded in my brain whenever I hear it. I'm there trying to roll buns, get the knack of it.
And do you ever think back now when you're rolling those buns down?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, because it was such hard work.
Yeah, well, I mean, back in the day when that, like you say, that was what you called an apprentice.
Yep.
You know, an apprenticeship was hard graft. You know, it wasn't easy. And I mean, what made you choose to go into the bakery?
Oh, I always loved food.
Yeah,
cooking food and that, and I had a acquaintance that I knew that had moved up the central coast of New South Wales, and I just asked whether or not he wanted to put me on as an apprentice.
And there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, fantastic. Well, we're going to talk a lot more in part 2 about Tinnies, because you have built up, I mean, a fantastic business and an incredible reputation. I mean, you've done so well, which I can't wait to share that with you guys in part 2. In terms of coming here, I mean, obviously you've travelled around the world. You mentioned you've been to a lot of places. I mean, is there one place that you sit back and, you know, when it's in the quiet hours of the day and you're relaxing and think, do you know what? If I could pick Tinnies up, I'd love to have done it there. Is there anywhere that really springs to mind?
No, in all honesty, here. I love it. You know, it's such an easy life here if you don't create hassles for yourself. It's not the same as it used to be, and we have our difficulties with everything from visas and work permits and whatever else. But it is the way it is, and if you accept that and just make the most out of it, this is a great place to live. Look outside today, you know, there's not a cloud in the sky.
I know, yeah, it's beautiful.
There's a nice breeze. We haven't even got the air conditioning on this morning. I think here is the perfect spot.
You didn't choose Bangkok?
No, I didn't want to live in Bangkok. You know, businesses, when you own a business, you need to make the business work for you, not you work for the business. So opening the business here was really a long-term thing. Being able to live a relaxed lifestyle, you know, and I've got the girls out the back that can do pretty well everything. I'm here every day, but you know, it's just a great place to live.
I mean, I must admit, the location that we're in, I mean, when it comes to your break time, you know, whether you have your morning break or your lunch break, I mean, you're literally 30 metres from the sea.
Yeah.
Is that the Australian in you? Is that like, I've got to keep close to
yeah, I can't live away from the ocean. I love the sea. And even though, you know, I never go in the sea here, you know, I still walk along the beach every day, every afternoon, and try to get my 12 kilometres in. Because I eat pies, so I need to.
Don't worry, I know the feeling. Don't worry. I've been out on my mountain. I've got a road cycling bike, and so yeah. I mean, if I'd have done this video with you 6 months ago, I wouldn't be sat here. I'll be over there. I'll be eating them all because they are delicious. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned earlier that obviously, you know, Pattaya wasn't the top of your list, and that you went to many other places beforehand. I mean, looking back in the day, I mean, obviously the thing I want to ask you is, because back in the day things were so different. I mean, what was like the go-to place back in the day?
Oh, I suppose, you know, in the 90s, for me, it was the Nana area.
Yeah.
You know, that's where I spent most of my time. I was pretty fortunate. A mate of mine had a condo on up on Soy 77 in, that he never used, so I sort of treated it as my own. So I had a good base there, and just got to know Bangkok. You know, when you go to Bangkok a one-off time, you think, oh, what a horrible, dirty place it is, but it's not. There's lots of great things to do there.
I must admit, I love Bangkok only because, being a city boy myself from London, I like the hustle and bustle. I like the city life. Yeah. So, you know, when I go up there, I actually enjoy it. And like you said, you know, it's a very valid point. And guys, if you're watching this, you know, when you think of Bangkok, you either think of the Nana Plaza or you think of Soy Cowboy. And to be fair, I understand that because they are very well publicised. But like Michael says here, there is so much more to Bangkok than just those two areas. Even, you know, excluding the non-nightlife area, you know, you got like Soy 22, Soy 11, Soy 9, all around there. I mean, it really is fantastic. And definitely, guys, if you do come to Pattaya, and many people, you know, I'm sure you agree that many people will land, get out of the city and never go back until they depart.
Yes.
And it's like, guys, go up and check it out. It's good. Yeah. It is good. In terms of exploring, what about islands? Do you visit many of the islands here? Oh,
over the years, I've pretty well been to them all.
Have you? What's your favourite island?
Oh, God.
Oh, I got him now, see?
I don't really have one, I couldn't say. I just, you know, we're working all the time now, so, and I live on the coast, so I don't have much reason to go across the islands now.
Yeah.
I just can't answer.
All right, let me throw it a different way to you then. Let me throw it a different way. You've got a lad that's just come here, and he's walked in, he's sat down, he's having his breakfast and his cup of tea, and you walk over to say hello, and he says to you, do you know what, I'd love to go to an island here, but I really don't know which one to go to. Where would you send him?
Oh, look, if he was just after a day trip, over to Koh Lan,
yeah,
which is only short, you know, 50 baht on the ferry. And
I know, it's great value, isn't it?
And especially now with nobody here, it's actually pretty good over there. But, you know, you've got Koh Chang and stuff. If he's happy to spend the money and go and catch a plane to Koh Samui or something, you know, they're all good places. It really depends on whether you want a bit of nightlife or you just want to go and be by yourself.
Yeah, I must admit, I like Koh Samet. Yeah. Koh Samet to me is beautiful. National Park, it's very clean, it's very organised. I just think it's lovely, you know. And like you said a minute ago, you know, we'll touch on this in a second with the devastation it's had here, but every cloud has a silver lining, and albeit a very small silver lining. If you go to Koh Larn now, like you said, it's just empty, and you get the whole island to yourself. I mean, over the ridge there to Samay and you know, Tien Beach and that. Oh, lovely.
Yep.
Lovely.
Yeah, no, it's good.
It is. In terms of, without talking about the effect it's had on the business, because we're going to cover that in a lot more detail, but in terms of the period that we've been through recently, I mean, where do you see the outcome of this? Where do you see the balance being when you think maybe tourists can come back?
Oh, it's true. How long's a piece of string, you know? I think that realistically we're going to have to live with this for quite a lot longer than we already have. We're talking about sandboxes and, you know, letting tourists back in without quarantine, but at the moment we really don't even know the effectiveness of the vaccines. It's just we have to sit and wait. I really feel for the businesses that can't operate and have been closed basically for the last 14, 15 months pretty well, you know, the bars and the clubs and that. And they need to open, but, you know, we've got to try and control the outbreak. But we don't seem to be sort of really going anywhere at the moment, you know. In terms of like the date, when do you think we might get back to the new normal? What do you reckon? Again, I've got no idea. I don't think it'll be this year or next year.
Or next year?
No, I just, because I think there's going to be more things coming up all the time. I hope I'm wrong, you know. I hope by the end of this year we've got, you know, December, we've got thousands of people coming and staying around here and filling up the hotels and the bars.
Yeah, wouldn't it be good?
You know, spending money so that the locals can make the money. I wouldn't put any money on it, that's for sure.
Yeah, I must admit it's weird how you kind of like go full circle, because back before all this, you know, you used to get quite busy, there was a lot of stuff going on, and sometimes, you know, particularly walking around, you think, oh, wouldn't it be nice just to have a quiet day where there wasn't anybody bustling and moving around. And now, of course, we're the opposite. Now we're like, oh, wouldn't it be lovely to have so many people back again? You know, those flag chasers swarming all over the beach so you can't get past them. It would just be nice to have that kind of congestion again, I think.
Yeah.
In terms of you, Michael, I mean, obviously, you know, you've been at it now a long time here, you've been working hard, you've worked hard all your life. I mean, when do you see yourself putting your feet up?
Well, I suppose it comes back to the purpose of coming here, was that there is no reason the business can't keep going. If I was in Australia, I'd work 14 hours a day, doing everything from washing dishes and cleaning floors and that, because cost of labour is so expensive.
Okay.
And the ongoing costs of, you know, from workers' compensation and insurances and all that type of thing in Australia, it's so difficult to run a small business. Here life's pretty simple. We look after our staff, we have good staff, we pay them well, and but it's affordable to have them here. You know, I can't ever see me going back to Australia and opening another business. But you know, there's no reason that in 20 years' time we still won't be going strong. It's just one of those things that, you know.
Fair play to you. Fair play. I mean, obviously you're here in an environment surrounded by food. So when you go out of an evening and you go out for food, I mean, please tell me you don't eat pies.
No, well, not at the moment.
Are you critical?
Trying to do the no carbs at the moment.
Oh, okay.
But, I'm fussy. I try not to be too critical. But I like my Indian food.
Oh, yeah, lovely.
You know, I love Thai food and that. So I like going to good places. It's hard to find places that food is consistent and that you can go back there time and time again and enjoy your meal. But it's a big place. And at the moment, everybody wants customers. So
for sure, yeah. I mean, do you find yourself like going into a restaurant and if there's pies on the menu, are you tempted to have a pie just to analyse it?
No, I any new pie that comes on the market, I go and get one and have a look at it. I like to see what other people are doing, you know. but very few of them you can bite more than a mouthful, because I'm used to eating the stuff that I cook, and that's what I like. If I go out, I want to have something that I don't cook.
Yeah, well, that's
pretty hard, because we cover most things here now anyway.
Well, we're going to talk about that in part 2, which is coming up in a few days' time. Michael, it's been a pleasure having you on the channel. Thank you so much indeed for sparing the time. I know you're a busy man. In part 2, we are going to talk about Tinnies and about, the birth of Tinnies here and how it's expanded, and how Michael's, he's got, and I'm not just saying it because it's that, but you have got an incredibly good reputation, and that doesn't happen overnight, and it's certainly not by luck, because one thing that Michael touched on just then, and you may or may not have picked up on it, is people are very critical here, very, very critical, and bad news travels like that, and yet you don't get any. It's unbelievable. So thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure. All right, guys, so that's it from me today here on the Coffee Chat Show. Please, as always, remember, hit the subscribe button and also the bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we bring out a new video. Check out our Discord chat group. There's loads and loads of people. There's over 1,300 people in there now, all chatting away about different topics to do with Pattaya and Bangkok and Phuket, etc., etc. There's a link in the description below. Check that out. And if you haven't, join our members area. More and more members are joining each and every day. And just ping me an email with your ID and I will, with your face on a picture, and I will send you back your digital ID card. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. And please, as always, stay safe.